sits on
Oh,
the journey.
when they come, they actually come with like an extra little phone down there, which I put them on a version, and my landlord same reason.
Oh, okay.
So I turned those away from the other ones. We could always try it.
Oh, well,
I gave it away because maybe I'll never
ordinarily
get
I
one
would
back. I got rid of it because I
have it in the UK.
thought I should.
So it's 50 years old.
Thank you.
It's a little bit worn out, you know, the disinfect thing that goes in and it twists it. It's a bit loose, it falls out. Well, the key's got water.
But every one of those are disease
Yeah, Mum did the same thing yesterday. Looked really lovely when all the candles were still lit too.
Yeah, it's got
Yeah,
not a vein, it's got a
at the
slot
end of the service thing.
They possibly do because
Because that's good
well,
for
it
quality
hangs it,
control.
I think so, 'cause on Easter they've got the cross where everyone puts the flowers in it. Yeah.
Okay, darling. Oh, good.
Hoping I don't quite know how much.
Yeah, thanks.
like your outfit.
Oh, thank
Really
you.
stunning.
Yes.
Really good.
No, I was saying
For the stage.
I think I was saying to Tender earlier, I don't think I've worn it since Avenue Q. This is my Kate Monster dress.
No, very smart.
And are you in a couple of dramas at uni?
No, I'm not at the moment. I'm kind of working behind the scenes for that. I was doing a show, like the costumes for a show last term, and then this term I'm doing the ballet and the contemporary. Yeah. Really keen for third term though, because that's when I get to do a musical.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I have to wait patiently for my turn.
yes, yes. Gosh, that's lovely. There's a group, a singing group that I was looking at pictures of yesterday. They're on the steps of Wesley Gymnasium.
Yes. Now, what group
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to worship on this Good Friday morning. Welcome to those who are joining us online and via our DVD ministry, and welcome to all of you who are in the space here. We begin here by acknowledging the Wardandi people, who are the traditional custodians and elders of the land, their elders past, present and emerging, and we acknowledge their custodianship of the land throughout the millennia. Particular welcome today to Rob and Lee. It's their 50th wedding anniversary today, and they were married 50 years ago today, right in this very church. Well, no, it wasn't this church. It was the predecessor of this church. It was the Round Tank Church that was replaced in 2002. This one was opened in 2002. There are several people who are involved in that project in the building this morning, and Rob and Lee, if you want to talk to them about its destruction and this one's building up, you're welcome to do so. They were congratulating themselves that they've outstood several buildings. So congratulations from all of us. This morning, our service is going to involve only just 3 bits of singing. We'll be using the tune that many of you will know, Amazing Grace, but some different words have been written for it. There's no requirement for you to sit, stand, or do anything else, but simply to be in the space. There are parts for you to participate, just a very couple of parts, and the words will be on one of the 3 or 4 screens that are around the room, in white print generally, if you want to participate in those. There will be 12 different people who will come and share the voices of the characters who were part of this story, and then afterwards they will extinguish one of the candles that are on the table. And we want to acknowledge the work of Victoria and Julia and Glennis in getting our display ready this morning, and also our musicians who will lead us both today and Easter Sunday. And great work, Mafaro, on getting all the candles alight, man. Thank you. And for ringing the bell. So today, our service is a reframing of what we may know as the traditional emphasis on Holy Week. Today, we've started by moving the conversation away from anti-Semitism or bloodthirsty Middle Eastern potentates demanding a blood sacrifice for original sin. And importantly, this is not something that's very new. Alex, if you've got the next slide. Peter Abelard, the French philosopher and theologian who lived between 1079 and 1142, it's a little bit before I was born, wrote these words: Christ died neither because a ransom had to be paid to the devil, nor because the blood of an innocent victim was needed to appease the wrath of God, but that a supreme exhibition of love may kindle a corresponding love in the hearts of men and women and inspire them with true freedom for the sonship or daughtership of God. So if you've come today expecting to be told that you're a horrible, unworthy person, you're going to be disappointed. Instead, we're going to consider the possible thoughts entertained by several people who were observers of the Passion. And we're going to see how we can relate them to our everyday lives. So with that information, I invite you just to take a couple of moments of quietness, and then I'm going to lead us in a shared prayer. And there are parts in the prayer for all of us, for women and men. So if you're able to see the screen, I invite you to pray with me. We gather as those who sense abundant grace in the abundance of our lives, but who remain plagued by the reality of want and injustice in our world. We gather today to bear witness to suffering and death upon a cross. We are appalled at the injustice and cruelty of such inhumanity, not only in Jesus' story, but of days in our lives when we are confronted with greed, corruption, discrimination, hatred, violence, and loss of life. Ladies, if you'll lead us. May we commit ourselves to seeking peace, justice, mercy, forgiveness, kindness and love. May we respond to our world more wisely and compassionately. We pray together. May this day of darkness not hinder our resolve to follow in Jesus' ways and to make our world a better place. In the midst of salacious suffering and the callousness of crucifixion, let us hold on to hope in resurrection. This is our prayer. And we invite you to sing with the musicians. So we begin a Good Friday reading. What Else Could I Have Done? Written by Fred Plummer. These readings are a glimpse into what is called the Passion, the story of Jesus' betrayal and death. Come and walk with the people that were with him during that time. Each of the readers will come to one of the microphones and share.
I am Judas from the village of Kerioth. I loved the land that God had given to my people. I believe Jesus of Nazareth was God's answer to Israel's prayer for release from Roman tyranny. Surely he was the Messiah, foretold by our prophets. I just knew that he was an invincible leader against the opposition and the oppression of Rome. I became impatient for him to demonstrate his leadership by marshalling Israel's warriors in battle. He seemed more interested in being present to needy peasants and beggars. It was maddening to me to listen to him talk about loving one's enemies, when what I wanted was for him to knock heads. Why did he waste time with lepers and children?
I'm a Roman soldier. Our cohort was pretty typical. A fierce and cruel band of men. Actually, most of the stinking peasants we have to keep corralled think of us as murderers, but we don't care. It's our job, and we're good at it. We're paid for obeying orders, whatever they are. That night, though, was special. We were to nab this Jewish rabble-rouser Jesus. We got a tip as to where he was, and we came armed to the teeth. We came to capture a dangerous revolutionary.
I was there that night. My name is Peter, and we, the disciples, were in the garden with Jesus while he was praying. It's hard to express the level of fear and hatred that came over me when I saw those soldiers. I loved Jesus so much that I had to do something. I had to show my loyalty and devotion. So I raised my sword. I meant to do so much more. But all I managed to do was cut off the ear of one of the soldiers. I was desperate to protect Jesus, but resorted to exactly the kind of thing Jesus warned us against. Jesus doesn't condone violence. And there, facing what was sure to be unimaginable cruelty, Jesus reached out and healed the soldier, one of his enemies.
I began to wonder if Jesus needed an opportunity to demonstrate his divine power. Perhaps I could arrange an opportunity that would force his hand. I conceived a plan that would give Jesus a chance to demonstrate his superiority over Caesar. I offered to lead a squad of soldiers to the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus would have no choice. He would summon legions of angels to disable Caesar's soldiers. But everything fell apart before my eyes. It was inconceivable that Jesus would allow himself to be taken prisoner, but he did. I was sickened by the realization that I had betrayed God's Son to his enemies. I was desperate. I could not undo what I had started. I had betrayed my Lord, had returned his love with betrayal. I didn't deserve to live. What else could I do?
This Jesus surrendered with a courage like I've never seen. There was something about him I couldn't understand. He carried no weapon. But when he came towards us, we became terrified. A troop of armed Roman soldiers, paralysed with fear. I was so embarrassed. But what else could I do?
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what was happening. I promised Jesus I wouldn't deny him, but that night I denied him 3 times. I bitterly wept because of it, and I was deeply sorry. But we, all of us, were so scared. We fled, and we didn't know what to do. We were in constant fear.
I am chief priest of the Jews, a man of prestige and political influence. I know the rules, and I'm quite recently kept the rules. After all, my God made the rules. But then this Jesus of Nazareth came into my life and abruptly started to break our rules. It made me so angry and jealous. I wanted to get rid of him. He claimed to heal people, he helped people, and he said he was the Son of Man, and his popularity kept growing. Despite our efforts to discredit him, he never defended himself, nor tried to get revenge. Instead, he demanded honesty in his relationships with us, and honesty was not what I was really interested in, but that voice pierced my heart. Perhaps I knew deep down that he was the man of God, but I didn't want to admit it. What else could have I done?
After Jesus was arrested that night, he was given 6 trials, all without witnesses and all at night. They were brutal and cruel to him. Long before he even went to the cross, Jesus was humiliated and beaten. He was all alone. His disciples were nowhere to be found.
I'm Pontius Pilate. Personally, I had nothing against him, although he was known as a troublemaker amongst his own people. Certainly, as a Roman ruler, I didn't care whether he lived or died. I was curious to hear him, though. He seemed to have a depth and a power about him. I must admit I came to think of him as a man of truth. Why was he to die? I felt reluctant to let him go, but I'm not sure why. There was something so unusual about him. But I had my job to consider.
I'm a very beautiful woman, am I not? Pontius Pilate is my husband, a very powerful and influential man, and I am a very important woman. Something happened to me, though, that scared me to the inner depths of my being. God spoke to me about Jesus. He did it in a dream at night. And from then on, I tried to warn my husband about Jesus. Besides that, something about his eyes bothered me. They were the kind of eyes that see right through you. I wanted my husband to leave him alone and release him. I didn't feel like he was someone we should be dealing with. But what else could I do?
My wife was acting strangely. She didn't become upset often, but when it came to this Jesus character, she pleaded with me. Mind you, I was bothered by Jesus too, what was left of him. By the time he got to me, he was beaten so badly that it was hard to recognize him. I was conflicted, knowing that if I didn't have him crucified, I would lose my job. Losing face and being embarrassed in front of the people was unacceptable. What really bothered me was that this Jesus actually seemed to care about me. I didn't want to admit it, but I didn't want his death to be my responsibility. So in front of the screaming, shouting mob, I washed my hands of the situation. What else could I do?
My name is Simon of Cyrene. You probably don't know me, and I didn't really understand what the situation was. I was just a bystander in the crowd when I was pressed into service, carrying the cross of this Jesus of Golgotha. Who is he anyway? I was near to him, even though he was about to face death, there was a strange peacefulness about him. I didn't have anything against him, and carrying that cross beam may have relieved some of his suffering. Look, I did all that I could. What else could I have done?
I loved my son from the moment he was born. Let's just say he wasn't an easy child to raise, but I loved him. We had our own differences, certainly, but from the very beginning of his organising people, this was my greatest fear. Why did he have to be so different? He could have been like his brothers, lived in Galilee, had a family, but he wanted everyone to be treated fairly. Does it make sense to say that I think he just cared too much? He loved too much. I must admit I am proud of him, and I wanted him to know I was proud of him, that I loved him. That's why I was there, to be with him one last time. It was harder than I could have ever imagined. I felt every wound he received. I would have done anything to have taken his place.
I'm Mary Magdalene. I was proud to be one of Jesus' disciples. It's a rare thing for a man in our world to treat a woman with such equality and respect. I came to know Jesus when he healed my illness. But I discovered later he had healed more. He had healed the deepest part of who I was. It was a strange day for me when I realized how much I had come to love him. I did what I could do with my financial and moral support, but it was not enough. I now know that every moment I spent with him was a gift. Clearly, this man spoke the truth. He made me realize that I had lived my life in fear instead of love. And where there's love, there's no room for fear. Maybe that's why I had the courage to be at his feet when they executed him.
My name is Joseph of Arimathea. Look, I'm not trying to brag, but I'm a pretty big deal. Even without my membership in the Sanhedrin, I'm an important, prominent man. I'm not a terribly brave person, though. I had to gather up every ounce of courage after Jesus was executed to ask for his body. Sometimes the bodies are just left to be eaten by the birds and dogs. It's horrible. I have a large family tomb and thought Jesus should be buried with some dignity. But I was so frightened if someone had found out, I'd lose my reputation and position. I'm a wealthy man, and this was a big risk. But somehow, I knew that such a holy man should not be thrown into a pit. He changed my life. He taught me the truth. Opening my family tomb was an expression of gratitude for how much he had changed my life. After all, that's the way love is. It transforms people to do things for love of truth rather than from fear. What else could I do?
I'm a centurion, part of the Roman squad assigned to Golgotha that day, and I saw Jesus die. I was just doing my job. I saw so many people die, more crucifixions than I can count. But you get used to it. Besides, it's what we do. But this Jesus, this raggedy bag of bones, he changed me. There was something about the way he died. Call it an inner peace or something. In spite of the pain, there was something about him. He even had the audacity to forgive the detachment carrying out his execution. Who does that? I do think he was special somehow. I wish I had known more about him. I still feel bad about participating in his death. What else could I have done?
What can I say? How can I ever make this up to him? He must know that I loved him with all my heart. What more could I have done? Am I willing to risk my life for his truth? Can I still call him my Lord? Will I be able to face the others after being such a coward? What he taught us was hard enough to live out when he was right here with us. Now I have to figure out a way to live it by my wits. I owe him that much. What else can I do?
I know I've been given a gift of love so great that I will gladly give my life for the sake of my child. Maybe there are things I could have done differently, but I couldn't have loved him more.
I'll always wonder if there was more that I could have done. But then, none of the 12 even showed their faces when he was killed. Sad how the same bumpkins who busied themselves arguing about who would be first in the kingdom were absent that day, cowering somewhere safe during Jesus' last hours. I hope he knew when he looked at me how much I loved him. I will never leave him. I will never betray his truth. Maybe that's what love is.
Characters in our story are vastly different from each other. Clearly, when they ask, what else could I have done? They don't all mean the same thing. The Roman soldier, full of regret. Perhaps Pilate seemed just a little defensive. Simon of Cyrene, thoughtful, trying to literally think if there was something else that he could have done. angry, heartbroken. Where each of them are coming from, they each ask, what else could I have done? So what do we do with these characters and this story? You get to talk. You might like to turn some to someone you haven't come with or someone you have come with and share your impression of one of these characters. Let's remind you who they all are. Pilate's wife, the Roman soldier, Simon of Cyrene, Judas, Mary, the mother of Jesus, Peter, Mary of Magdala, the chief priest, Joseph of Arimathea, Pilate, and the centurion. So let's take a couple of minutes to just think and talk through. And perhaps even if you're brave enough, acknowledge which of the characters you relate most to. Have some time to chat. So I hope, folks, that just having a little chat through or saying, I didn't connect with any of those people, is okay as we come to this day. And just like on that day, when Jesus was put to death, what the disciples thought was that last light of God's love had been put out.
We dwell in God, God dwells in us. With God we are as one. With God we dwell, which God has won.
So, we leave this place in peace and hope. For nothing can separate us from life and love. For we are an Easter people. Go with the blessing of God. Amen.